Hey everyone, Shy Ceiling here, crawling out of the trench to lead you down the muddy path of my art process. It's another draw with me of my OC, so grab your sketchbook, your drinks, and snacks, because this one is going to be a fun one. I thought that I would talk more about my feelings on this drawing and how I was thinking as I drew this, in hopes that maybe some of you can relate and find comfort in knowing, others have similar thoughts and feelings. There'll be some nice calm music in the background, and hopefully my voice isn't too insufferable to listen to. It's gonna start off with the Clip Studio Paint, speed paint thing first, because I didn't actually screen record the beginning of the sketch. And then from there, it'll all be screen recording from then on. So sorry about that. It's a little weird, but that's pretty much it. Alrighty, let's go get muddy. So, I was having a really hard time with the initial sketches. I wanted to study faces and expressions, but I was immediately tilted and didn't like anything I was drawing. It was like my hand seized up, and the more I drew, the stiffer my arm, my wrist, and my fingers were. It didn't help that I was actually watching a draw with me of another artist, and I naturally slipped into the nasty habit of comparing my art to theirs, which I'm sure others can definitely relate to. It really put me in a bad mood, but I still continued on by sheer will, because I almost put down my tablet already 2 times while trying to draw this, and finally sketched something without a reference, abandoning the practice material and just drawing something in general. As I worked on it, I liked it more and more, and I felt less stress. I wanted to reference some things like eye placement or nose placement or head position, etc., but I was already so bogged down that I just turned the whole drawing into this doesn't have to be perfect, just draw an experiment type of thing. When I started the lines, that's when I really started to feel like I could draw again. I could really go on and on about how I feel about my art, and at the end of the day, I've really lost the whole reason why I like to draw. Whenever I draw something really cute, even if the perspective isn't the greatest or whatever else, I want to run around and share it with everyone so that they can smile with me. But I don't think drawing to share is sustainable enough, at least for me. I used to draw often when I was in middle school and high school, drawing just to draw and enjoying the learning process of expanding my drawing library, which I think is still fun for me. Maybe. However, though, in the process of drawing something, the more I work on it, the less I like it. It happens so often in my adult life now that drawing will often become a source of stress for me, and I'll take very long breaks from it. Days, weeks, it used to be months, just long breaks in between. It's not enough to learn all the time or share my work with my friends and family. At the end of the day, I just feel like I'm not good at art. Which is silly, because the answer is obvious, right? Just keep practicing and applying the knowledge you learn into your projects as you move forward, right? But even putting that kind of pressure on myself to always learn and apply is stressful. It feels like the more I try to learn and develop, the more stuck I become. Like I'm moving forward without actually going anywhere. I often describe this feeling visually. Imagine, for me, if you will, my audience. You are in a dark room, and each choice you make draws a string that attaches itself to you and goes on infinitely. As you consider all of your options, this can be for art, your future, your job, all of those things, some of those things, whatever's relevant to you. As you consider all of your options, more and more strings develop and attach to you until you're surrounded by all of these strings going off into the void in different directions. You don't know how far they go, but you feel compelled to choose something now because there are way too many options bogging you down in one place. You feel the desire to move forward or even to cut some strings, but the strings are taut, strong as steel, so all you can do is stay where you are. Never moving in any direction, but constantly worried about not only being stuck, but how you're going to cut these strings from you. Which are you going to keep? Which are relevant, important, make sense, etc. It's a totally bizarre feeling, though I've been coming to grips with the fact that it's not abnormal. I know this kind of thinking is linked to my overall mental health in general. A conversation for another day if anyone really wants to hear about it. It's the biggest reason why I was gone for so long. But that allows me, knowing more about myself, allows me to shift gears when I'm drawing something and I'm feeling tilted. So I noticed I was upset about what I was drawing, and instead of pounding my head into a brick wall and putting my tablet down in huff, freaking out, they totally ruined, I instead recentered myself, changed my goal, and moved on to draw something with no rules or pressure. Thankfully, this gave me the mental strength to see this illustration through to the end. Thank goodness. You know, I've always been drawn to line art and sketchiness. Loose lines, scribbles, sharp lines, line weight, etc., etc. all make me feel really happy when I execute it the proper way, i.e., the way I like for it to look, the way that I find satisfying. I liked the sketch that I did, and I thought it was really pretty. And now that I'm doing the lines, it's even prettier, and I'm feeling like really positive about it now. I like to use the real G pen in Clip Studio because it's textured, which gives my art some grit instead of perfection, so I can kind of like enjoy the non-uniformity. I find when I use the regular G pen or any of the other pens in Clip Studio, I miss the texture that the real G pen has, as well as like the tapered feel to the end. So I just use that one. That's my thing. I always have the most fun inking something, and often take time to go back and just stare at the lines while I render. So you'll see me go back and forth a bunch of times where I'm just taking the color away and just looking at my lines because I like them so much. I flipped a sketch a million times to make sure I wasn't messing anything up, and sharp, crisp lines will definitely show you the imperfections. Something I can give myself credit for is the way I draw wavy hair. It's my favorite kind of hair to draw, and within the last few months I noticed any drawing with wavy hair brings me joy, and it looks really good to my eyes. I mostly mean the lines, not so much the shading and form, and something I would like to sit down and practice though, for sure, but just the lines, I've just been really enjoying. It actually like makes me happy drawing hair, which is kind of crazy to think about because most of the time I feel stressed when I draw. I wanted to keep the hair around her head blocky with shapes, and the hair closest to her face could have some extra weight, like the hair over her shoulder. I liked the way I drew her cheek resting on her shoulder, with the lines, like it was like one or two like different strokes that I did, and I wanted to make sure that it still looked like full, like it had form and it was plump. And I wanted to give drawing lips a real proper try, because I always kind of like trying it, but not really. So I wanted to draw them kind of plump and mushed over her shoulder a little bit to challenge myself. Overall, the lines are quite pretty, and I really could have just finished up the illustration there, to be honest. It's kind of downhill from here, but I digress. Oh dear. Okay, now we're at the point in this trench where it's raining, and not only are we muddy, but we're wet. And I hate both of those things. Okay, so as I started to render, I wanted to try something different from what I normally do. Because of this, I focused on some things and forgot about others. What I focused on this time was blocking and shading in shapes with the lasso tool, something I never really do. Typically, I use the paint bucket tool and add flats, then render on top. But this time, I mixed those two processes together, which kind of put me in an awkward situation. It bit me in the butt towards the end with the swirls, with the little like swirls on her skin, you'll see. One thing that I kept noticing when I zoomed out is that it was looking muddy. And the more I worked on it, the less I liked it. The curse is back. I kept feeling myself become more and more critical, so I took a few breaks from drawing it to give my brain a chance to relax, and maybe I'll come back and realize the mistakes I made and fix them. That did seem to help as I worked. I try to keep in mind the planes of the face. Since I was already so overwhelmed emotionally with this drawing, I refrained from looking up any sort of references for shadows and light on the planes of the face. But I was trying to like keep that model in my head of like where the light would be going on her face. I'm sure that it's definitely not 100% accurate, but I try my best. Instead, I just focus on getting comfortable with just experimenting with the process and finding new ways to use Clip Studio. So it ended up kind of working out, I guess, in terms of like learning. But I'm totally curious and would like to know, what's your favorite part of your art process? And if you don't have a favorite part for whatever reason, you gotta have a least favorite part, right? So you can tell me about that in the comments below. looking at this now that it's done and being edited, I can see what the issue is. I can see why I don't like it. The colors are all too warm. I think all of them are warm. I barely have any cool colors in there to speak of. If I look at the color history on there, it's just a bunch of browns, and they're all in the same red-yellow range, which is crazy. Watching the recording back, I noticed that when I was pulling colors from the color slider, I never moved to the opposite side, where the blues and purples are. And that's why my drawing looks muddy. Oh my gosh. Which is like, fundamental rule. I usually keep that idea in mind as well, so it's even crazier that I just didn't catch it and I completely forgot. I always end up finding flaws with my art during and after the process, and I've told myself long ago that what's done is done. So now that I have that knowledge and this as a reference, this finished piece as a reference, I can draw something like this again with an even better understanding of how to render properly the next time. So it's not a bust. I feel a little embarrassed realizing this now that it's done, but I have to remind myself that this channel is made with sharing my mistakes in mind. My art isn't perfect and never will be, but even so, I want to share my journey in hopes that someone else will relate and we can all grow together. I've always loved watching small creators grow or learning with them, or both, and I want to do that with my art too. So thank you all so much for dragging your bodies through the mud with me today. I tried using a script this time with organized thought and a narrative, so let me know if you liked that. Subscribe if you like the video if you liked it, or don't. It's all good. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to take a shower. I'm muddy and I don't like it. I need to go. This is Shy Seedling signing off. Was that cute? Or was it cringe? Okay, well, whatever. See ya.